Hey, everybody. We've had overwhelming interest in taxation topics, so we've launched our CPA Corner. I bring in specialists like this one, Alex Evers. He's an enrolled agent specializing in personal taxation. Great videos on very interesting topics. This is where you're going to learn personal taxation. As always, visit yourinvestmentcounselor.com if you want to meet with any of us or anybody on our team. Yourinvestmentcounselor.com. Without further ado, here you go.
Hi everyone, Alex Evers here, enrolled agent with McAvoy and Toll CPAs. Today, a quick video that applies to our Arizona filers who maybe prefer not to make their payments for their taxes directly to the Arizona government and prefer to donate to organizations and receive a credit on their tax returns for Arizona. So let's go ahead and dive into it here. Just want to share some of these benefits before I go into the details on these organizations. So the state tax credit for donating to these certain organizations lets you receive a dollar for dollar credit on your Arizona state tax return. So meaning you donate 100 to one of these organizations, you receive a $100 credit on your Arizona state tax return. In many cases, these organizations are also 501c3 charities. So if you don't need the credits on your AZ state tax return, you can also take these credits and apply them to the federal itemized deductions on Schedule A. But you can't do both. You can do one or the other, but sometimes it is nice to change between those. Another great benefit is that these donations can be made up to April 15th and be applied to the previous tax year. So specifically, let's say we're in 2025's upcoming tax season around February, March, and we prepare a return for a client and they know exactly what their state tax liability is. So then they can still make a donation to one of these organizations for, let's say, the exact amount of their state tax liability and completely zero out what they owe on their return. And then if you have credits that you haven't used, meaning you've zeroed out your tax liability, and let's say you have money left from your donations, they don't just go away necessarily. In a lot of cases, they do get carried over to next tax season. So which donations qualify for the credit? Well, we have qualifying charitable organizations, or QCOs, qualifying foster care charitable organizations known as QFCOs, the public school tax credit, certified school tuition organizations, or STOs, and then the military family relief fund. So I'm going to get into some details on the limits and how these credits help. So first, we got the qualifying charitable organizations. These are designed to help Arizona residents who are maybe low income or are dealing with a chronic illness or physical disability. The maximum QCO credit amount for 2024 is $470 for single, married filing separate, or head of household filers. And then you get $938 as your limit if you're married filing joint. Next is the foster care charitable organizations, or QFCOs. I mean, these are designed to provide immediate basic needs to children or family members dealing with the foster care system. The credit limit for 2024 is $587 for single, married filing separate, or head of household filers, and $1,173 if you're married filing jointly. Next, we got the public school tax credit. So certain Arizona public schools are listed as qualifying for this credit. Any donations made to these public schools help with fees that go to extracurricular activities, character education programs, standardized testing fees for public school students. The maximum credit amount for 2024 is $200 for single MFS, head of household filers, and $400 for married filing joint. So STOs, or the certified school tuition organizations, is an interesting one. This is organizations that you make donations to, and then they allocate that money to students that are attending private schools, and this helps out with their tuition, which is a pretty good deal. So the maximum credit amount for these organizations in 2024 is $731 if you're single, married filing separate, or head of household, and then $1,459 for married filing joint. So there are limits to each of these organizations, but you can make a donation to each one of these. If you want to fill up that whole bucket, you're married filing joint, you can $938 for the QCO, 1,173 for the QFCOs, 400 for MFJ, and then 1,459 to the school tuition organizations. So the last one is the Military Family Relief Fund, one of my favorites. This is designed to provide assistance to veterans and their families for financial hardships. So the maximum credit amount for 2024 is $200 for single, married, filing separate, or head of household, and then $400 for filing jointly. A little caveat here is that the overall bucket for this fund is capped at $1 million annually. So that means everybody that makes a donation to the Military Family Refund, once they hit $1 million, then you can no longer make that donation for that year. We're in December of 24 right now. I think when I checked it a few weeks ago, it was around 800,000 to 900,000. So it does fill up closer to the end of the year, but also is a very good credit. So this is a dollar for dollar credit, as I mentioned. It is non-refundable, but I want to show you an example here. So let's say we have an Arizona resident, single filer, $120,000 from their W-2. They're looking at a tax due of $2,654. So they decide to make donations to these organizations. Let's say it's this $1,878 amount. You see that on line 51. It's providing that non-refundable credit, which gets deducted directly off what their tax liability is. So instead of that $2,653, they're at $775. And then I wanted to add in some withholding to kind of show you that, how that example works. If you do have withholding, a lot of times people do. If your withholding and the amount of your credits exceeds your tax liability, then you are looking at a refund. But let's say, the client didn't have any withholding and they just made the donations. If they exceeded what their tax liability was with these donations, this is a non-refundable credit. So it's not going to turn into a refund. It'll zero out your tax liability, and then any remaining credits that you have left will be carried over into the next tax year. So at the bottom here, I just want to show you where you can kind of look at what organizations qualify for these credits. AZ Tax Credit Funds is a great one. You can go on there and look at all these organizations, public schools, STOs, QCOs, QFCOs, and decide which organization appeals to you the most. And then you can make that donation and then also add in your CPA or your accountant's info so that they receive that invoice that you've made that donation directly, and then apply that to your tax return. The Military Family Relief Fund is not listed on the AZ Tax Credit Fund's website, so I listed that separately for you. That link, DVS Pay, will bring you directly to the Military Family Relief Fund website where you can make that donation. If this is something that appeals to you, let your accountant know, or if you're looking for a CPA firm, maybe do some planning before tax season kicks off. Let us know. We can project out your tax liability and maybe add in some of these credits to see if it'll help you out. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you real soon.